Hey there, told you I'd be right back. See my old-timey radio. It's just a reproduction, but I love it. Okay, I looked up Mark Twain. I knew I had heard it and that it had something to do with the water measurement on a riverboat, but I wasn't sure exactly what. And here it says, as a riverboat pilot, Clemens would have heard the term Mark Twain a lot, which means 2 fathoms. And that means the second mark on a line that measured depth. So Twain means 2, and mark is the mark on the line. 2 fathoms is 12 feet, and that was the safe depth for riverboats. So just a little bit about why probably he chose that pen name. Okay, back to the afterword. And it's a little bit lengthy, hopefully. It's got a dry mouth this morning. I should have brought some water or something over. Mark Twain Spelunker. And it has a lot of pictures here. They're just black and white pictures, so. It shows a picture of the Luray, Luray caverns in the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is where we went, Tennessee. But they stretch across South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, evidently Virginia. I'm not sure how far up they go, but anyway. And it says this cavern was discovered in 1878. Okay, that was just a little caption under the picture. A great deal has been made of the fact that Mark Twain knew the Mississippi well. It can be said without hesitation that his boyhood and early manhood spent along or on the mighty river provided him with a rich source of experience to draw upon in his writing. He is never more convincing than when he is writing episodes which involve the Mississippi in some way, like this book, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. Would lose much indeed if all reference to the river were erased. It would be impossible to imagine Tom and Huck in any other setting. Little has been said, however, about how Mark Twain knew caves, and we know that that did come up in this book too. He grew up in one of the major cave areas of the United States. The Mississippi and the Ohio rivers both pass through this area, and many caves can be found a short distance from their banks. As a boy, Twain must have spent many exciting hours exploring and playing in the caves near his home. One does not need to know that most of the adventures recorded in this book really occurred, as Twain says in his preface, to have the cave episode ring true. Twain manages to make the reader feel as Becky and Tom felt because he was writing from vivid memory. If you visit Hannibal, Missouri, you will find a cave named the Mark Twain Cave, whose maze-like passages will be very familiar to you if you have read this book first. And the next little subtitle is called Limestone Caves. The Mark Twain Cave is a limestone cave. This type of cave is one of the most interesting kinds and is formed in a very unusual way. First of all, it is found only in those parts of the world which were at one time submerged beneath ancient seas teeming with animal and plant life. Many of these animals drew calcium carbonate out of the seawater to make their shells and bones. When these animals died, the shells and bones were broken up by waves into shell and coral sand and mud. Over long periods of time, the remains of countless organisms built up thick layers of limestone. Since large portions of North America were once covered over by such seas, thick deposits of limestone left behind when the seawaters retreated are fairly common. Limestone caves begin to form when water seeps through cracks in the rock. The water slowly dissolves the limestone along the cracks and carries it away, forming small, unconnected cavities. Over the course of hundreds or even thousands of years, the cavities may become as large as great halls, and may be joined into a continuous channel where streams of considerable size flow along underground. Eventually, the water table may drop, leaving these cavities and channels high and dry, while another system of caves form beneath the new water level. Dripping water deposits formations in the old cave, while water draining from above through cracks may connect the old and new cave systems. By drilling vertical shafts through the limestone, it was such jumping off places as these that Tom and Becky had to be so careful to avoid when they were lost in the cave. And it shows a cross section of a stalactite. And I don't know if they'll say anything about stalagmites or not. And they show a formation of caverns formed in this way. Cave formation. Limestone caves can be strangely beautiful because dripping water produces many interesting and unusual formations. Becky and Tom were lured deeper and deeper into the cave, exploring for these wonders. Some of the most common formations to be found have names like soda straws, stalactites, stalagmites, columns or pillars, as Twain called them, draperies, and flowstone. Soda straws are thin-walled hollow tubes about 1/4 of an inch across. They grow from the ceiling of caves as water runs through their centers and deposits rings of calcium around their tips. They may reach lengths of 5 or 6 feet. Stalactites form as minerals are left behind by water flowing over the outside of the soda straws. They usually form when soda straws become plugged, and they are shaped very much like carrots with pointed tips. Stalagmites, in contrast to stalactites, grow up from the floor where mineral-laden water drips from above, usually from stalactites. The tops of stalagmites are blunt and rounded. Columns are formed when stalagmites grow up to meet stalactites. Growing down, there's a little flying cootie in here. Growing down from above, or when a stalactite grows all the way to the floor of a cave. Water running down the sides of a column gradually thicken it by adding layers of flowstone to the surface. Flowstone forms where films of water flow over walls, floors, or columns, depositing sheets of calcium carbonate like icing on a cake. Draperies form where drops of water trickle down the undersides of sloping surfaces. As drop after drop flows along the same uneven course, a thin sheet of calcium carbonate gradually extends downward like the laced and ruffled Niagara, and gleaming and imperishable stone that Tom and Becky squeezed through on their way to getting lost. Other formations are more rare than these, and some formations may be found only under special conditions in one particular cave, depending on such things as the amount of water, its rate of flow, and its mineral content. The wonder and beauty of them has beckoned many a spelunker, and spelunker means a cave explorer, deeper and deeper beneath the everyday world on the surface. Creatures of the cave, and there are several pictures of these. A speleologist, say that several times fast or even slow. A person who studies caves in any of their specific aspects could tell you that the formations or mineral deposits found in caves are not the only attraction. Many men have become, and probably women too, fascinated by the fact that even in parts of caves which are totally without light, there are creatures which have adapted to living in caves. A number of living things, such as the bats that chased Becky and Tom, simply use a cave for a place to make their home during daylight hours. And they can be found quite close to the openings of the cave. Among these little cave dwellers, which move about mostly or exclusively at night, are pack rats, owls, bats, salamanders, frogs, and toads. It is not these animals which are the most intriguing, however. The troglodytes, or cave dwellers that live in caves and nowhere else, are the most fascinating. Certain animals have obviously been isolated underground for thousands of years during the course of their subterranean evolution. They become better and better adapted to total darkness and a food-scarce environment, and less capable of survival in the surface world. In total darkness, there is no need for protective coloration, so many of the creatures are almost without pigment to color in their bodies. Eyes are useless, so they are blind or possess only rudimentary eyes. Food is scarce, so they can last for long periods of time. That seems weird. And they show the bat, the millipede, the centipede, and the salamander. Among the troglodytes of America are blind white crayfish, blind cave fish with highly developed sense organs which pick up vibrations with great efficiency, nearly colorless and blind salamanders, a transparent, eyeless freshwater shrimp, blind millipedes, white spiders, and eyeless centipedes. Those forms whose eyes have deteriorated farthest, and whose pigmentation is mostly lacking are thought to have spent the longest time underground. Their ancestors must have been swept into the subterranean world by flooding streams, perhaps many thousands of years ago. Almost done. 2 more little sections. The dangers of spelunking. Caves are fascinating to explore for many reasons, but the best advice for beginning spelunkers is to proceed with caution. No one should ever venture beyond the entrance of a cave alone or without proper equipment. Mark Twain accurately describes most of the perils for amateur explorers in the part of the story where Tom and Becky become lost. Although there are few caves today where explorers could be hopelessly lost, the danger of falling into unexpected shafts, for example, is very real. Anyone serious about taking up spelunking as a hobby would do well to join an experienced group of cavers. Rules for safe and considerate spelunking are more specific and rigid than for most forms of outdoor recreation. Clothing is of great importance. Serious cavers recommend such things as hard hats, like construction workers wear, carbide lamps such as miners wear, and sturdy boots of the sort that hikers wear. Since most caves are damp and chilly, clothing must be warm but not too bulky. The best outer garment is a fairly loose set of one-piece coveralls. Caving is both dirty and hard on clothes, and the caver must be able to move freely. Along with his other equipment, any sensible cave explorer carries several light sources with spare parts and a reserve fuel supply. A substitute must be ready for any light that fails. A compass, a map, if available, a watch, a first aid kit for cuts and scratches, a compact high-energy food supply, and a flat plastic bottle of drinking water or other necessities. Some caves are so difficult that they require rope climbing techniques used by mountaineers. Caves of this type should not be attempted before taking rock climbing lessons or without special climbing equipment. And the most important single rule of spelunking is never enter a cave alone. At least 2 and preferably more people should be in every group. A lone caver cannot send anyone to the surface for help if he gets into serious trouble. And this is the last bit, cave conservation. After playing hide and seek with the others on the picnic, Tom and Becky wandered down a sinuous avenue holding their candles aloft and reading the tangled webwork of names, dates, post office addresses, and mottos with which the rocky walls had been frescoed in candle smoke. Presently they smoked their own names under an overhanging shelf and moved on. Mark Twain makes no other comment about this disturbing example of defacing a cave. However, caves should be preserved as carefully as possible in their natural form if others are to enjoy them. Marking cave walls, carving initials, or removing formations and mineral specimens will only destroy the natural beauty and wonder for all the people who come after. And littering either above or below the surface is inexcusable. Perhaps you do not live near enough to Hannibal, Missouri to visit the Mark Twain Cave, but no matter where you live in these United States, you're within 1 day's drive of a cave. Almost every state has at least one cave, and a few states have hundreds. Many of the best caves are in national parks and monuments, and others are in national forests or in state parks. A tour of the best-known cave near you may not be as exciting as Tom's adventures, but will be well worth your time. The end, for real. And I went to a cave long years ago when I was a young'un with my mom and dad and my big bro. And it was called Linville Caverns. And I remember, and we had a guide, and it was a group of us. And man, we went through a part that had a very tight squeeze. Not everybody could get through it, but since I was a little youngin' at the time, I could, but it was still, I remember being a very tight squeeze. And I don't think we went beyond, well, I know we didn't go beyond it because a lot of people couldn't make it through there, but it was just kind of a novelty to visit that area and see that and experience it. It was really cool. So if you're into caves, maybe this piqued your interest, or maybe you were interested in them before, just remember all the safety tips. Very important. Okay, I'm going to let you go for now, and when I come back later today, this being Sunday, August whatever, is it the 4th maybe? I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up, and it's on my phone. But anyway, I'll be back, and we'll be starting a little Christmas in August with a Christmas Carol from Mr. Charles Dickens. Okay, have a great day and beginning of your week. A lovely Sunday. Hopefully you made church. I'm terrible about getting there anymore with my sleep being all messed up, but I do need to get there. Anywho, love you guys. To the family, to you guys, my mouth's still dry as cotton. And be sweet, don't be ugly. Me too. And I'll see you later. Bye-bye.